On 22nd of January, on Headliners, the GBNews late-night paper review show featuring three comedians, you should watch it, it's great, we covered a story about a bishop who had rebuked Trump to his face as he was creating protections for women and children against gender ideology. And at the end of that segment, you only get about 2 minutes for each story, I made a joke about how going against child protection might be a bit rich coming from a church, and I quoted from their website and said the type of church that she belongs to, the diocese, it talks about the full inclusion of LGBTQ plus persons. I just want to say that includes pedos, right? Anyway, it was a joke about churches as much as anything else, but we'll get to the anything else in a second. I would like here to add a little comment to that, because the context of the clip and about the context of my statement, OK? For over 3 years on the channel and online, I have followed the lead of a group of homosexual campaigners who want to take back the LGB from the TQIA2S+. Now, this has already happened, by the way, in America. The LGB now has been officially separated in government websites and paperwork and stuff for this reason. And one of the reasons for doing so is that the LGB don't want to be attached or associated with what's included in the Q+. So what is in the Q+ then, right? We don't know. Nobody knows, okay? They are deliberately open-ended terms. It's an open-ended term that anybody can identify into. Right? There exists no definitive list of who and who isn't included in the Q and the plus. And that's the problem. Because people advocating for paedophilia, to normalise it, say they're included, right? Just like Pi, I don't know if you heard of Pi, the paedophile information exchange that tried to latch onto gay rights in the 1970s and legitimise their actions as a sexuality. And by the way, it was gay activists who mobilised to kick them out. So exactly the same thing is happening now with the term MAP, which means minor attracted people, essentially created to make paedophilia sound more acceptable. Okay? Now, there are over 30 academic papers have now been written at universities, including MAP under the queer banner, the Q. All right? So my point is, I didn't say LGB are paedophiles. I didn't say trans people are paedophiles. I didn't say intersex or two-spirit people are paedophiles. What I am saying, is that for that for some people, the full inclusion of the LGBTQ+ includes paedophiles. I even said it at the end, stressing the point that, of course, and they cut it out, by the way, in this 7-second clip that was put out online, and I even says at the end, if you're talking about the full inclusion, just to emphasise my point, OK? Because one of the comments I read online was a mum of a gay son who had 2 of his own kids who was very upset. She thought I had said that her son was a paedophile. I didn't. But I'm genuinely sorry that anyone might have taken what I said to mean this. And I apologise to her, anyone who thought that's what I was saying, OK? The fact is, paedophiles exist in every single group, right? Every single ethnicity, every single occupation. And in all those places, they need to be called out. Okay, what I'm talking about here, though, is the splitting of the LGB from the Q+. And this is something we've talked about many times on this channel, on this very show, on Headliners. I've talked about it online, and why the Q+ aren't terms fit for purpose, OK? It was within that context I said what I said. I can see why some people might think I was being homophobic, when in fact I was being the opposite. LGB must be separated from the Q+, as it has been done now in America. They have nothing to do with each other, right? You're not going to get that from a 7-second clip. You might not get it from the 2-minute segment either. I assumed our audience would understand my point, the people watching the show, the people who watch Headliners, which with the benefit of hindsight was clearly obviously not the case. I'd like to say, I'm sorry, anybody who thought that I was making an offensive comment, I'm sorry. I'm sounding now like I'm being a bit too defensive. I just want to point out that I would never do that because I am, as our audience here knows, I'm a gay icon. Anyway, Thank you. I don't know why you're laughing. It's true. I am now joined by the discrimination barrister, Robin Moira White. Hello, Robin. I don't know if you heard what I just talked about. You, I believe, were the person who originally made the complaint of homophobia. Do you still feel that way?
I have no idea whether I understand that 50,000 other people...
But you're the person who originally raised this point, right?
I did, but my understanding is that the number of complaints to Ofcom is now...
Yeah, 50,000 people who watched a very small, tiny 7-second clip.
Well, and I've just listened carefully to what you said, and I came on to listen carefully to what you said because I had made a decision never to go near GBNews again after I'd heard what you said. I think you need to play back what you just said to yourself, because you talked about separating the LGB from the Q+, and carefully didn't mention T, virtually all the way through everything you said. Now, which category... So I'm left not understanding which category you put T in what you've just said. You didn't include the T in a positive category. I understand the point you might make about what's in Q+, but you've not said anything about T in the last 5 minutes or so. And the splitting the LGB from T, Q+, whatever, you would have to accept is a minority view within LGBT circles. Many, many more people say that that group works better together and supports each other. And I have to say that the, quotes, official separation of it by the most appalling government in the US that's ever been elected has been thoroughly rejected by the LGBTQ plus community in America.
Yeah, the LGBTQ plus, but not the LGB. Many in the LGB community in America are very grateful that Trump has made this move.
Well, we know, for example, that the LGB Alliance in the UK represents the views of about 1% of LGBT people. 99%.
Well, you don't know if they represent the views. They may have that many members, but that's not necessarily the case in terms of what they actually believe or think.
Anytime it's been studied, that view is a completely minority view amongst LGBT.
But do you think that view has also changed a lot considerably over the last couple of years? I'd like to answer your question, though, about the T. No, frankly, I don't think that the T belongs with the LGB, because LGB is an inherent characteristic. That's how you're born. I don't believe that the T is necessarily the same as that.
You're perfectly entitled to hold that view. Everybody's entitled to hold their view, to speak about their view. But I've just listened to what you've said. I heard you in the short clip, which was either clumsily stated or not properly cut or broadcast in the way that it was, that very clearly implied that you were accusing all that group of being...
No, I didn't. I said here the full inclusion of the LGBTQ plus, and I repeat it at the end, the full inclusion. If I was going to call LGBT people paedophiles, I would have said I'm calling them paedophiles. I didn't say they are paedophiles. I said the full inclusion of the LGBTQ plus. I stressed that twice, specifically for that reason.
I'm sorry to say, but I came on to listen carefully to what you said. And if you play back the clip to yourself, and you'll hear yourself leaving the T out and leaving your position as far as T. Is it your view that T people are inherently paedophiles?
No, not at all. No, I've said that there are paedophiles in every single group. There are paedophiles in... I'm Jewish. There are paedophiles. There are Jewish paedophiles. There are Christian paedophiles. There are black paedophiles, white paedophiles. It's nothing to do with the T. I'm talking here about the expression, the totality of LGBTQ plus does include people who paedophiles who are using it to legitimize themselves.
The other tremendous danger with minority groups is that, journalists play a game where they try to get the name of a minority group and criminal in the same sentence, or paedophile in the same sentence.
Sure.
Roma, for example, I have Roma relatives, and Roma have been targeted in that way for centuries by different groups, and we know how destructive that is to people's view. I think Romanians were treated in the same way, and that there have been appalling things happen to minority groups because of this game of getting the name of the minority group and the accusation of criminality close enough together that people make that assumption. Now, you and your channel have launched straight into that area with a complete lack of care and did what you did on the 22nd of January.
I don't believe it was with a lack of care. I believe you should be able to call out paedophilia wherever it is, in whatever group it exists in. But we're not even talking about calling out certain people. They're talking about the legitimization of paedophilia as some kind of sexuality.
Please, no, nothing I say should in any way be taken to endorse or support paedophilia.
Okay,
not in any way.
Can I first of all say...
What you said, the way in which the channel put out that piece appeared to suggest that, and you should be a mature TV channel and you should be aware to those dangers, and plainly you weren't. And in listening to what you said this evening, it's very plain that the T fell into a gulf somewhere between the LGB and the Q+. And you weren't plain about that in what you've said. So have a listen back.
Well, I believe there is a gulf there, the T, the I. What does intersex have to do with LGB? What does T... I also didn't mention intersex, did I? I didn't mention intersex because I don't believe intersex has anything to do with LGB. I don't believe T has anything to do with LGB. That's why I left them out. I don't believe... What else is it? The two-spirit. I don't believe that's got anything to do with LGB. But anyway, first of all, I'd like to say... Thank you for coming in. We do have to cut off and say, I do want to say, do you have another point to make? One more final point, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Final point. The point of your session this evening was to try and put right the wrong which you and your channel created on the 22nd of January. You haven't done it.
OK, well, that's your opinion. And it's also your opinion that I dig wrong. I have apologised for any misreading of what I said. I have put it in context. I do not believe a 7-second clip within a 5 years of advocating for this position properly represents that. I would also, by the way, like to say thank you for coming on. I would also like to say I was offended by you utilising Holocaust Memorial Day to prove your point about trans people. That's a separate thing, if you would like to come on and talk about that another time. But I'm not accusing you of anything for doing that. But I don't believe that your point has got anything to do with Holocaust Memorial today anyway.
I don't need lessons about Holocaust Memorial Day. My grandfather was the third British serviceman in through the gates at Bergen-Belsen.
Are you Jewish?
No.
And I speak to Jewish, thank you very
Jewish
much.
communities about the experience that my grandfather had.
Thank you. And thank you to your grandfather, but I don't believe that makes you be able to compare this experience with the Holocaust. I think that's a ridiculous comparison.
I don't need lessons about the Holocaust, I'm afraid.
Well, I think you do, because the Holocaust is not the same as someone making a little joke on a TV show, OK? On a comedy TV show. But thank you very much. Genuinely, I do appreciate you coming in. That is not me being supercilious or anything. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.